born in Indianapolis, Indiana, 1938. So I ended up in the Army and had no aspirations for a full career, but after about a couple of months, I realized this is what I was cut out to do. Went on, became a distinguished military graduate, which gives you the regular Army commission, allows you to choose your branch. I chose infantry, and the rest is history. If you're going to be in the Army, that's where you belong. I mean, everybody has a contribution to the service, and all of the other branches are certainly supportive and necessary, but infantry is where you do the fighting. As having graduated in '60, I had the pleasure and the luxury of 2 full years at the 82nd Airborne Division, where I learned my trade, had the opportunity to go down to jump school, then later had the opportunity to go to Ranger School, then I went to Jungle Warfare School, I went to half a dozen other schools, still have the scars from chemical biological school. After that, it was time for an overseas assignment. They sent me to Germany. Had a very pleasant year serving as an aide de camp to a 2-star general who was in command of the largest command on the American side, but he wore 2 hats. In addition to being a U.S. Army commander, he was also a NATO commander of a force that they called the Mobile Land Force. Well, I was a first lieutenant when I left the 82nd, and within a year I was a captain, and it was just a priceless experience. So I got to, travel a great deal, see everything through the eyes of this 2-star general. I loved every minute of it. And when we were finished, he invited me to come back home with him, and I said, I'm honored that you asked, but I need to finish my overseas tour. And he said, well, where do you want to go and what do you want to do? And I went down to 10th Special Forces in Bad Tolz, Germany, which was the best assignment in the military. There was no way I was getting out after that. And I came out number 1 in the Ranger course as a Ranger Company commander. Yeah, so the last 2 months of the course, I was the Ranger Company commander. Well, I loved it, and I loved it for no other reason. As I say, the mission at that time was unconventional warfare. We ended up in Vietnam. Special Forces did a lot of counterinsurgency and training of the indigenous forces. The instructors at that time were superbly professional. But what I loved about it most was '65 now was over, and I was doing this course in '66. And who are all my classmates? Guys that just got back from Vietnam. Half of the people that were in the Ia Drang Valley were in my class. I knew when I went overseas, I was bound and determined there was no other unit that I would serve in. I was going to the CAV. One of the interesting combat situations I had existed because we were that close to the South China Sea, that there was not as much vegetation. There was actually a wide open space, almost like a giant drop zone. And we spotted a couple of the VC that were trying to get away from capture because a company had been chasing them. And they had radioed to our helicopter explaining what was going on. They said, we've got all but about 4 of them, and they're about to get away. And they broke out of the tree line, and from the helicopter, we spotted them instantly. And it didn't take nuclear physicists to figure out what they were doing. They were trying to get to that little village, and if they got there, we were afraid they could blend in. Possibly that's where their tunnel complex was located. But I told Roscoe, we need to settle down and separate them from getting to the shore. And he didn't want to risk the helicopter because all 4 of them are armed. And I said, tell you what, just put me down and I'll create a blocking force. The company's right behind him, so it's not like I'm going to be all by myself down there. But I had him overhead with cover, and I came to the crest of a hill, and they were still about, 100 meters away, about a football field. And I made sure they spotted me, fired off a couple of rounds to make sure they saw where I was. And then I went into my histrionics, okay, you guys on the left, and everything. And by the time they decided surrenders, actually, we'd been out on patrol all day. We'd not made any contact. We hadn't found anybody. We hadn't been shot at. And I called back to the company commander and said, we're going to button down for the night. And he said, no, I want you to move over to another location, but down there, and I'm going to send in birds to lift you. So the first company had already been moved out. I moved the company headquarters, and a mortar round came in. I had on a big backpack, and I took a huge hit in the back, but it didn't hit me. I got a little flechette on the side, but the one piece of shrapnel that was my trip to vacation land came over my shoulder and went through my cheek and blew out about 9 of the teeth. And of course, I then spent my restoration and facial constructive surgery in Honolulu, Hawaii. Yeah, what was my fondest memory of the war was Honolulu. If I had to have a single primary responsibility, it was take care of your men. And that's what I felt. As a matter of fact, 50 years after the war, I still wear that as my finest moment, that we were in many conflicts, little pitched battles. Most of them didn't last more than an hour. I never lost a man.